an honourable mention is Mercedes, just because they were just obviously way too good, but I can't be giving them Team of the Year. I think it's between McLaren and Racing Point. And I think those top two, you can argue both ways, I think. And then I probably have AlphaTauri third.
Yeah.
Just if I'm eliminating Mercedes out of the conversation, I think AlphaTauri third, and then Racing Point, McLaren, you can argue on a good day for each team. So I think it'd be stiff for me to solidly announce a team over the other for having a great year, but I think those two definitely were head and shoulders above the rest of the teams in terms of breaching expectations.
Queensland! It's a miracle! Oh, yeah! What about that one? Costello! Unbelievable! Balotelli! Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, the ball is close! He's given him! He's given him! Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday!
Welcome back to the On the Ball podcast. This is episode 94 of the show. I'm joined with, well, not a new guest. You've been on quite a few times, but I haven't had anyone on, basically, for about 30 episodes. So welcome back, Alex / Peanut. Feels weird calling you Alex, but how are we, mate?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good to be back. It's been probably half episode since I was last on, but good to be back. Keen for it.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to talk about something other than NFL. Obviously, I've been loving it at the moment, but keen to diversify once again because I do love all sports. So today we're going to be talking about F1 as that is what we do as a duo. I think we've done maybe 3 episodes before this one, but we haven't done one in a while. It's not since like halfway through the season. So today, as you have probably guessed, we're going to be wrapping up the 2020 season. So we're just going to be reviewing each team's season, how they went, how we think they might go next year or something like that. And then we'll just discuss best race of the year, also which drivers impressed us the most and disappointed us the most. And then we might share our opinions on next season at the end on the empty driver seats and who we think's going to, bolt up those standings. But I reckon we get straight into it with race of the year, mate. Right. We did a little bit of thinking about this before we came on air, but what is your race of the year?
Jeez. My initial thoughts were Gasly's win in Monza. Multiple red flags, just hecticness. No Lewis, he was charged from the back, but ran out of laps. Then also, I thought the first race of the year where Charles was flying in the Ferrari looked good. And Lando Norris's last lap with Hamilton's penalty was just something else to watch. There's been a couple others that are probably worth mentioning. Perez's win would have been good if Russell in the Mercedes wasn't punctured or whatever, got bent over there. But I think if Russell had kept on there and pushed him, I think that would have been an awesome last 10 laps to watch. But obviously that didn't come to fruition. But yeah, I reckon Monza or the first race in Austria.
Yeah, there's actually a lot to choose from. I feel like normally it's pretty clear which are the top 3, top 2 races, but I reckon there's a lot of hectic ones this year. Mine, I was going to do some research on mine, but I just thought, you know what, whatever comes first to my head, I'll pick, because that's obviously there's something happened in that race that's reminded me of how good it was. So I'm actually going the British Grand Prix. So this is the Grand Prix where all the lads' tyres just shirked it.
Yeah.
I think Bottas on the second last lap, Hamilton on the last lap, and Verstappen set the lap record for the course, or for the track on the last lap. He was started the lap 40 seconds behind Hamilton, and Hamilton had punctured tyres, and I think the gap got down to within 10 seconds, but it was a pretty dull race up until like the last 10 laps or so, but it just got really hectic at the end, and there wasn't too much action at the front of many races this season, with Hamilton leading most by 30 seconds, but for this one, for Verstappen to have a really hectic comeback. And I think there was also a bit of hectic action around like the 4th, 5th and 6th spots. So
I think Turkey also deserves a shout out. I'll just check that one. Excuse me. I think that's where they had a few red flags and they were coming straight off the safety car and someone straight into the back of car lost signs and then bang, another.
Yeah, there were a few ones with some hectic crashes, but
a lot of red flags here, which is pretty intense.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember. I think we did our last podcast like the week after the race where there was multiple red flags, and we were saying like it's the first time since like 2017 or something.
Yeah.
And then basically bloody every race after that had one.
Back to back, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon we've covered most of the good races there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I reckon we just get into a bit of team by team analysis. So I don't know who we want to start with. I reckon we just go alphabetical order if I can quickly think of the alphabet. So starting with Alfa Romeo, mate. What did you make of their year?
Nothing special, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't shine really in any moments. Probably just what they were expecting. What we were expecting almost. Really pretty bland from Alfa. Really didn't add too much entertainment to the year.
Yeah, they were pretty dull. They got quite a few decent finishes, but it was more just because DNFs would push them from like 16th to like 12th. So there was a few times, and I think they had a few points finishes. But yeah, most of it was due to crashes. I think they did decent. If anything, maybe overperformed a little bit of what we were expecting, but yeah, nothing of a note really.
We're near 8 points on the constructors in 8th place, but 99 points behind 7th. So it's like it's really just. Yeah. But they were the best of the worst by 5 points to Haas and then Williams on 0. So
yeah, I think going into it, I would have thought that's the level like AlphaTauri would have been at.
Yeah.
Just racking up a few points here and there, but they obviously took a step up with Gasly having a killer year. So Alfa Romeo was kind of just left on their own in that bracket where they're not as bad as Haas and Williams, but they're not great. So yeah, not too much to report on the Alfa Romeo front. But I think they did serviceable. Both drivers have been re-signed, and I think that's probably fair. I think both of them did pretty decent this season. So I think Kimi especially, he had 2 9th places.
Yeah.
And there are a couple times where, he was dueling it out with Vettel and stuff, and he would regularly win those clashes. So I think both drivers did decent, but yeah, ultimately the team just didn't have much impact on any races at all. So
probably them and Williams who probably just didn't really care. You just knew that they were going to be down the bottom.
Yeah, like Haas provide us with a bit of entertainment, but they're just kind of reliably below average, these two teams.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really think we need to touch on Alfa Romeo anymore. That's about all.
Well, same drive for next year, so hopefully more than 8 points for the year. Yeah, and
it'll probably come down to if the Ferrari engine gets any better. I'm not sure about that.
I think nothing else that it probably won't next year, but
yeah,
hopefully they're wrong.
All right. Next side, AlphaTauri. Can't lie, I'm a big AlphaTauri fan.
I am this year.
Absolutely killed it this year. I won't spoil my drivers of the year and stuff, but Gasly had an absolute killer year. And yeah, there's like Kvyat. Is Kvyat even worth mentioning? He had a couple decent finishes in the back half of the year, but
he was driving pretty well. I think it hasn't been offered a seat for next year, which I thought was pretty smooth, maybe.
Yeah,
he was driving pretty well, I thought, but yeah, no, nothing. I think Gasly's sensational years probably outshone his.
Yeah, it's probably hurt him actually a little bit that his teammate had such a good year, but as a team, they actually killed it, didn't they? As I mentioned before, I was expecting AlphaTauri to be down in the single-figure points, like on 10, something like that, just getting the occasional 9th or 10th place. But yeah, to win a race is just insane, and then to get multiple top 5 finishes, that's pretty incredible. And they seem to be very good at keeping the cars on the track. They didn't have too many retirements. Gasly actually finished every single race, which I don't think many drivers could say. But
from Pierre.
So AlphaTauri, absolute killer year. Once again, we'll talk about it after in terms of the best drivers of the year, best teams of the year, but they would definitely be up there in both categories for me in terms of Gasly and the team.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely killed it. can't lie, it's probably not the most exciting team moving forward because they probably do have a ceiling. Like they are basically Red Bull's feeder team, but they've got a new driver, Yuki Tsunoda. Can't say I know too much about him, but hasn't been a Japanese driver since like 2013 or 14. So
he's fast.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. So
as they get a bit fired up.
Yeah, so it'll be good to see how they go and good to see how they compete in the midfield battle once again. So yeah, AlphaTauri, good year, solid footy. Actually, not solid footy, a lot more than that, but well played to them. All right, next in the alphabet, if my knowledge is correct, Ferrari. Well, what did you make of Ferrari's year?
Ferrari, obviously nowhere near where they usually are or where they want to be. Obviously, they're usually in the big three.
Yeah.
Romeo, Ferrari, Red Bull. So I think from the start of the year, they'd be very disappointed. If you looked at where they probably wanted to be at the start of the year to where they finished. I think after a few races, I think they were pretty set, just in that midfieldish kind of battle where, I mean, Vettel's probably like 8th to 13th usually during the race.
Yeah.
And Leclerc's usually qualities pretty well and then, kind of drags back a little bit during the race, drops a few positives. I mean, they had Leclerc second in the first race, I think, which gave them some much needed points. I think looking at the constructors, AlphaTauri 107 in 7th and then Ferrari 6 at 131. I think that second kind of saved them. So we come into the last race with AlphaTauri, say, 10 points behind Ferrari or something, or 5 points behind Ferrari in the last race. I think that'd be a huge midfield battle for that. But I think that second place kind of just put them, looking back at it now, secured them that 6th spot to Alpha. But yeah, I think they'd be pretty disappointed.
Yeah, 100%. Vettel, don't know if it was him as much as the car, but yeah, he had a stinker of a year, really. Was expecting decent things from him, and he finished outside the top 10 more than he did finish inside it. So it wasn't great. And similar to the Kvyat Gasly thing, he looked pretty average because Leclerc was constantly beating him by 5 to 6 positions. So Charles, obviously going into, as you mentioned, in preseason, we would have been expecting more, but given the car he had, he ended up with 3 podiums and a couple fourth places. So I don't think Charles had the worst year at all. I think he was actually pretty decent. Proved in a bad car that he's still one of the best drivers in the field. But
if not,
as a team, pretty bad.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, in the end, we kind of adjusted our expectations for them. So the back end of the year didn't seem too bad from them because we were expecting 8th to 12th finishes. But when you compare it to what we were expecting at the start, the whole year was pretty rubbish from them.
Yeah.
To finish below McLaren, Racing Point, and Renault, the odds on that would have been pretty silly in pre-season. So not a great year from Ferrari. You'd be expecting them to bounce back next year. Obviously, I've signed Carlos Sainz from McLaren, which I think will be a solid move. I like Carlos as a driver.
I do too. Great driver.
So, can you see them finishing that low again next year, or do you think the inevitable bounce back has to occur?
I think they've said that the car's not going to be great next year. I think hopefully they've kind of put the expectations low just in case it don't. Hopefully
smart footy guys.
Hopefully they kind of increase it a bit. Hopefully they bounce back. Want to see the horses up the front again. So I'm not really a Ferrari fan. More Red Bull and McLaren, but I do want to see them up front, giving the big dogs a bit of a run for their money.
Yeah, definitely the more people at the front, the better. So yeah, I want to see them bounce back a little bit. Maybe not too much. I don't really want to see them winning. Not the biggest fans of them, but especially for Charles's case, I hope they have a better car for him. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see Carlos in a bigger team with a bigger budget. So that'll be all good to see. But not a great year from Ferrari. Definitely below par and below their expectation. But
50 points behind fifth. Probably says it all for this season.
Yeah, it's not great. But Charles did very good effort in a bad car.
Yeah.
So, all right, next up, we've got Haas, our favourite team on this podcast.
The Haas boys. 3 points for the year.
2-point finishes. The ninth got them up to the 3 points in Germany in the Eiffel Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Look. What can we say about Haas? It was just more of the same, really, from last season. Not much improved, which is disappointing on their end. But a lot of retirements. I think the second car retired more than it didn't. Basically, they were pretty much always had one DNF.
Yeah,
which isn't what you want to see. Their highlight of the season was probably when they didn't pit stop or something, and when there was a safety car and they ended up third and fourth. That was the most. I think that was the most relevance they had to any race.
They got a bit of attention that day, didn't they?
Yeah, and they were just blocking people from coming through. But apart from that, they didn't really get up to too much. Romeo caused a few crashes at the start of the season, which we love to see.
I think they get a few DNFs too. That was a bit of a team effort, really, for their DNFs.
Yeah, they shared it around. But look, not much to really say about Haas, similar to Alfa Romeo. Once you realised early on in the season it was just going to be more of the same, we kind of just stopped paying attention to their results, and they were always just in the backfield, just battling with Williams to avoid last place. Really a few DNFs were the only reason they secured points, but that's about it. Not a great year from Haas. Don't know what the future of Gunter is. I don't even know if he's still there, because ever since he's been involved, they haven't been great. Let's be honest, but he does provide a few gags here or there. So I wonder when the Netflix show is coming out.
Hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm so keen for it.
Yeah, I'm keen as well. They've got 2 new drivers next year, Haas. They've got a young Russian, Nikita Mazepin. I don't know how to say that last name in a Russian. Don't know how a Russian would say that. It's more like a French vibe. And then Mick Schumacher, obviously. So
Mick, so keen.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Big expectations for Mick, so I feel a bit bad for him. But it'll be good to see the name.
Up to the name.
Yeah, exactly. But it could be good to see the name back in the sport.
Yeah, just
in a
shitbox car.
Haas. Any final thoughts on Haas, mate?
So thank God Grosjean's all right after that crash. That was pretty.
Yeah. Cool. That was
we said seeing him not behind the wheel in the Haas next year
for his own health.
As much as the cause some accidents and stuff, it was always funny having Grosjean.
Yeah, I actually kind of like him. He seems like a harmless bloke.
Yeah,
but he causes a lot of harm on the track.
Yeah, a bit clumsy, I think.
Yeah, seems like a good bloke.
Clumsy.
Yeah, but not much else to really say, is there? Just a bit of a nothing season from Haas. All right, now we're testing the alphabet knowledge. What is after H? Ooh, it's got to be one of the M's, I reckon. I think it's McLaren.
Yeah.
I think it's McLaren. All right. What did you think of McLaren here, mate?
Good year.
Yeah.
Great year. Be sad to see Carlando go, the duo of dreams.
The boys.
But I think both drivers really did their part this year. Looking at the drivers, Carlos 105 points, Lando 97. So, a race in it for those points and stuff. So both pulled their weight. It showed some good speed and some good results for both of them. Lando podiumed the first race, and Carlos got second at Monza with that ridiculous finish. Probably fell a lap or two short of probably a certain win, catching Gasly. But I think they both proved their point this year, that they're here to play, especially young Lando, and then Carlos and Ferrari next year. I think it's going to be exciting to watch.
Yeah, they kind of took turns. The first half of the season was Lando's season. He was stealing all the headlines there. Carlos got off to a bit of a slow start, and then Carlos really came home strong after that second place, where he got. Pretty good year from McLaren. I wasn't expecting it, but like if you had to pick a team to come third that wasn't Ferrari, I probably would have put my money with McLaren over like a Renault or something. But
Yeah, sure.
Still good to see them up there, and
Yeah.
it was always a very exciting battle for third place in the Constructors' Championship. So appreciate McLaren and Racing Point and Renault for that one.
Very, very good.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed Lando and Carlos's season of racing. And yeah, just respect McLaren. Fair play moving forward there. Ditching Renault's engine, going back to Mercedes' engine. So they'll once again be called McLaren Mercedes, which I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, watching a bit of F1, that name was always like front and center all the time. So yeah, it'll be good to see McLaren Mercedes back. They've obviously picked up Daniel Ricciardo to partner Lando Norris, which has got to be one of the most exciting partnerships we've seen in ages. Obviously, there's been a few good ones, but
their new engine, I think they'll be flying. I think they'll be up there.
Yeah, hopefully they can push Red Bull and Mercedes.
Red Bull having eyes in the back of their head with those fellas. I reckon they'll be flying.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Love the McLarens, and love Lando and Dan. So very excited for that one. Do you reckon they could finish above Red Bull or?
Yeah, I'm not ruling it out. I think they're a good chance.
Yeah, we'll obviously wait for like pre-season testing and stuff. It'll be tough to overthrow Max, but definitely whoever they sign in their second seat, whether it be Alex Albon or Nico Hülkenberg, definitely can be targeting that drive every weekend. I reckon.
I think so. The number one slot, actually, I think at the moment.
He hasn't been bloody re-signed with Racing Point. I'm so out of the loop with the next year's seats.
I think he's favourite to be signed, but
he deserves it.
He does deserve it. I've got a feeling Albon's sticking around there. I reckon he's gonna. I think Albon's.
That'd be pretty hectic if Perez went seatless next year.
It'd be very disappointing, I'll tell you that much. He proved a point this year that he's got it, so it'd be disappointing if he doesn't get picked up.
Yeah, I like Perez, but there's only 2 seats left.
Yeah, isn't it?
So, good year from McLaren. Both McLaren stands, I'd say, here. Definitely one of our favourite sides. And, yeah, great year. Third in the Constructors' Championship. Probably the very ceiling of what their expectations were. So, fair play to McLaren and well done to Lando and Carlos. Next up, it's got to be the other M team, if my alphabet is correct, and it's Mercedes. What have we run out of things to say about Mercedes? What did you make of their year?
Just class. They're fast. I mean, the car was obviously just superior to everyone else. But yeah, I mean, not much else you can say about Mercedes. They were just too good. Just class. Too classy for us.
Yeah. It actually wasn't that boring this year because they were often just out the front and then there was just carnage behind them. So and then there'd be a safety car that would come back and then they'd go out again. So it wasn't even that bad in terms of them winning every race, but they basically did win every race. But fair play to Lewis. Just once again confirming how good he really is and laying his claim to the GOAT title after he retires. And Bottas, do you think Bottas had a bit of a disappointing year? Or
I don't really agree with him re-signing with Mercedes. I think George is pretty stiff not to get the call up. Hopefully there's a bit of a rearrange. And obviously Lewis hasn't re-signed, so it would be a piss if he signed with Red Bull or something.
Yeah.
Shits and gigs. But just to prove everyone that he's the best, and him and Max.
Yeah.
I think him and Max would be pretty fiery on and off the track.
Yeah.
It would be entertaining, but I think he's just going to have another year at the Max and probably win another championship. But hopefully it's a bit closer this year. He doesn't win it doesn't guarantee halfway through the season.
Yeah. Obviously, as an F1 fan, you've got to just pay attention to all the battles all throughout the 20 seats. But when the number one is decided halfway through, it's definitely hard to stay as pumped for the upcoming races. Because Lewis was that far ahead the whole time. But yeah, disappointing from Bottas, it has to be said. He only won 2 races, which I think is lower than his usual tally in the last few years. And he actually didn't have that many podiums, quite a few finishes like in the low top 10 positions, which would have been disappointing.
I think some things were pretty stiff. He was out there, especially the second half of the season. I thought he was out there having a crack trying to beat Hamilton, always trying to do the opposite tyres or what Hamilton was picking stuff, and he always kind of led that charge with the pit crew, and sometimes Mercedes kind of screwed him over a bit with that. But he was also get out there in front of Lewis. I'm glad he got a couple wins, but yeah, I don't think he's. I would have loved to see George in that seat next year.
Yeah, they definitely took a more risky strategy with him this year. Last year, they were pretty happy just to come first and second in every race. But I reckon Bottas said this year, like, I'm willing to cop a few 5th, 8ths and stuff like that if it means I get a few more wins. But it didn't quite happen. But that's what happens when you've got arguably the GOAT in probably a better car than you. So it's pretty hard recipe to beat. So yeah, another superstar year from Mercedes. Well done to Toto and the boys. But yeah, it's hard to see them getting dethroned anytime soon as the kings of F1. But
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, fair play to the Merc. They absolutely killed it once again. And Lewis, another title to add to his collection. All right, next up. Geez, this is really testing the alphabet knowledge here. This actually might. Is it Racing Point? Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
We'll back in Racing Point anyway.
Yeah. The Pink Merc. Great year.
Yeah.
Great year. Almost, would you argue it's better than McLaren's year?
I would I would. Because my expectations pre-season were probably a bit lower for them than McLaren, but yeah.
Fantastic year.
Yeah.
I mean, both drivers really did. Obviously, Perez was a highlight of the year for them. And even Stroll did his part for him. He only had 75 points, but he got a second place, and he was 5th in Turkey or something, and his back right punctured or spun out, which put him out of the race with like 10 laps left or something. So, but yeah, I think fantastic year, especially from Perez, 4th in the drivers, 125 points, being the likes of Danny Rick and Carlos and Albon and stuff. So best of the rest of the drivers really between outside of Hamilton, Bottas and Verstappen. But yeah, fantastic year for Racing Point.
Yeah, he's probably stolen that throne from Sainz this season as the best of the outside those top 3 lads. But yeah, absolutely killed it. He won the second last race of the year, the second one in Bahrain, and had a second in Turkey. And yeah, just a really consistent year from Perez. Pretty much every single race he was between 4th and 7th, and he was just regularly putting in those consistent performances, which is how you end up 4th on the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah.
A lot of other...
He missed 2 races as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he missed the 2 British ones, and Nico stepped in for him. But yeah, very impressive year from Racing Point. As you did raise a good question, who had the better year, McLaren or Racing Point? It's a tough one. I would say Racing Point just because I had lower expectations, but I think they did test pretty fast in pre-season. So I think everyone's expectations quickly adjusted for Racing Point, but I'll still probably just give it to Racing Point next year.
It's a bit of a laugh that Nico's 15th on the standings with 10 points. Beating Kimi, Russell, Grosjean, K-Man.
That is good footy from him. If they did average points per race, I wonder where he sits. Because that's good form, 10 points in 2 races. But yeah, next year they are transitioning to Aston Martin once again with the Mercedes engine. So it'll be interesting to see how they do there. They've picked up Seb Vettel to replace Sergio Perez, which is interesting. Going to be interesting to see if Perez can land that Red Bull seat. Hopefully he does, because as we just mentioned, he does not deserve to be seatless for this season. Or we don't want to lose him to another sport of any kind. So yeah, Sergio's absolutely killed it this year. Stroll, serviceable year, nothing special. Couple decent races, but pretty good year overall though. That definitely boosted his season.
really backpacked, didn't he? Perez just got the boys to 195 points.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
But absolutely killed it. All right, next up we have Renault. If we just did Racing Point, I'd have to imagine.
Red Bull.
Oh, Red Bull. There is another team starting with R. I forgot there. All right, Red Bull. You're the Red Bull man, mate. What did you make of the year?
A lot of highs and lows. I think it was probably one of the more inconsistent teams for the year, especially from Mr. AA, the Albon. Again, good performances, shocking performances. Max was fast unless he DNF'd, which he did quite a few times recently, especially in the second half of the year.
Yeah.
Still ended up with 214 points. What can you say? 11 podiums for Max this season. Obviously, a win on the weekend. Pole position too was incredible to watch. He was pretty pumped with that. Listened to the team radio, but Albon 105 points, finishing behind Carlos, Ricardo, Perez. Probably not where he wanted to see himself. Definitely put his seat up for grabs. 2 podiums. I mean, obviously, there is a good chance that the car was built for Max, and we don't really know how good that car was. If someone else sat in it in the year, it would have been interesting to see if say Gasly or someone got the call up after his incredible start, because obviously Max is just a different beast. But I've got a sneaky suspicion Albon drives next year. I think they might give him one more crack. But I think for the constructors, second was always where they're going to be. Obviously, probably would have liked to challenge Mercedes a bit more at the start of the year. But I think once they realised that Mercedes was unbeatable pretty much, I think seconds it's probably a bit of a boring year for them, just knowing that they had second and had absolute lengths on the rest of the teams. So up and down year for them, I reckon.
Yeah, I think Max showed his frustration a few races that he just couldn't really get around the Mercedes. But in the end, pretty good year from him. He would have finished above Bottas if it wasn't for his 5 or 6 retirements. So because he was only 9 points behind him, and Bottas only retired from 1 race. So fair to say Max outdrove Bottas this year, which is probably what we were hoping for in the preseason. But still a long way from Lewis. But I think a lot of that comes down to the car, and hopefully next year the gap can tighten. But with whoever the Merc drivers are, obviously we want to see Lewis still in the sport. But I can't lie, it'd be interesting to see a Mercedes, a Lewis Hamilton-less Mercedes. But I don't think that will happen. Pretty sure he's re-signing this weekend or something. So
I think he's secured the bag there.
Yeah. So fair play, but hopefully Max can once again get closer to challenging them. But it's a pretty impossible task at the moment. But he's doing the best he can, really. And if he just keeps wrapping up top 3 positions in the Drivers' Championship, it's pretty hard to criticise him. So fair play to Max. Alex, you've basically said it all with Albon. A little bit below what we would have been expecting, but. Hopefully he gets another crack at it. Pretty crazy to think either him or Perez is going to be seatless going into next year, but
it's a big call for them.
Yeah, I don't know. If I'm honest, if I had to choose who gets a seat, I'd hope Perez, because Albon's still very young, so you can always come back. Where I think if Perez doesn't get a seat here, even though he absolutely killed it this year, he is starting to get on in his career. But good luck to whoever wins that seat. It's always a tough one racing up against Max every weekend. 100% agree with you. Very inconsistent year from Red Bull, but still pretty solid to comfortably wrap up that second spot. All right, Renault now. Probably were they inconsistent? Actually, not really. I thought they were, but not really. Ricardo was actually very consistent.
Ricardo was almost under the radar this year, I thought. 5th, 119 points. Had a podium. Yep, 2 podiums.
Yeah, 2 podiums,
I mean, stoked with that after breaking the drought with Renault. be good. Excited to see him in McLaren next year, but this year was good. Good from Danny. Very impressive. Really 6 points behind Perez, who was top 3 drivers of the year for many reasons, probably everyone. Especially that second half was pretty incredible. Ocon 62 points he probably would have thought is in for a couple more points than that.
Agree. Yeah.
Constructors 5th, beating Ferrari by 50 points is probably something I didn't expect at the start of the year.
Yeah, they'll take that for sure.
I think that probably would have been they would have been determined to try and catch Racing Point in the constructors, but fell a bit short. But yeah, I think probably points-wise, probably stock standard season they were expecting, try to push the top 3 cars, which they did pretty well. Danny Rick was flying. I think he'll be the drivers next year. I reckon Danny Rick pushing top 5, top 4 again in the orange car, so that'd be exciting. But pretty decent year from Renault, I thought.
Yeah, 100%. An improvement on last year, but nothing incredible. Like, I probably would have expected them to outperform Racing Point, but then not beat Ferrari, and they've done the opposite of those two. So probably a past season from Renault. They'd probably be a little bit disappointed with their own expectations, I'd guess, but from the public's expectation, I think they did pretty much what we expected. Next year, obviously, Danny Rick leaving to McLaren, they're bringing in former champ Fernando Alonso, and they've... Is it Alpine or Alpine? I guess it's Alpine. Yeah, that's their new team name. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. I definitely do think they have a ceiling. Like, I don't think they can reach as high as a McLaren or something. But probably just another solid year from them next year. If I had to put...
Do you reckon it's fair to say that Racing Points and McLaren's outstanding seasons probably a bit of a dim light on Renault? Because they still racked up 181 points, and we're literally a few good races off beating Racing Point and McLaren. If things went their way or something, pretty impressive. But I think those two teams breaking through their expectations kind of put a damper on Renault's season.
That's just facts. Like, Renault have actually been stiffed there, but look, they can cop it. But pretty stock standard year from them. Ricciardo put in an absolute shift, but just hold out, as you said. All right, last we've got Williams. I believe we have touched on every team now. Williams, don't really need to spend too much time on this, do we? Latifi didn't do much at all. No offense for me, almost had a few points finishes, but
11th place, which is stiff. And one of those races just need to go their way to snag at least 1 point, but a pointless season really is just got to be under expectations. You would have thought you get one race, you can sneak in a 9th or a 10th or something, but I think that'd be pretty cut with 0 for the year.
I think they almost deserve to outscore Haas, to be honest. But that's kind of disappointing they didn't get there. George definitely took a few steps forward in his development this season, though. He was regularly beating the Haases and pushing the Alfa Romeos and even further beyond that. Even qualifying, he was regularly qualifying in 14th, 15th when, I think most drivers would be lucky to escape the back of the grid with that car. So, great year from George. Latifi, first year in F1. As you mentioned, a lot of 11th finishes, so it would have been good if he could have been the hero and got a few points. But, probably exactly what we expected from Williams.
Probably the name that was least mentioned by the commentators.
100%.
Probably got a good 2 mentions throughout the year.
Yeah, he was too far away. So he was never involved in any of the crashes either. So pretty boring year for the team.
That might have been his mentions if he had a DNF finish.
He had a few retirements, but I don't really remember anything spectacularly. But that's probably the only thing we need to touch on with Williams. That George had a pretty good year. But apart from that, there's not really much else to mention. Probably a little bit disappointing that they didn't, get 3 or 4 points or something like that. Maybe even beaten Haas, but yeah, not too much
a bit
below
silly
what
at
we were expecting.
The back end of the construct's a bit silly when you're saying 3 or 4 points decides.
Yeah, it's like
the bottom 3 kind of couple races.
So like the difference is like one car crashing in front of you, and you're coming ninth. So yeah, it's pretty small things, small margins. All right, I reckon that's all we've got for the teams now. Oh, should we quickly just go team of the year rapid fire? We've talked through all the teams, but if you had to award a team of the year, who are you going with?
Geez, it's tough. I think an honourable mention is Mercedes, just because they were just obviously way too good, but I can't be giving them team of the year. I think it's between McLaren and Racing Point. And I think those top two, you can argue both ways, I think. And then I probably have AlphaTauri third.
Yeah.
Just if I'm eliminating Mercedes out of the conversation, I think AlphaTauri third, and then Racing Point, McLaren, you can argue on a good day for each team. So I think it'd be stiff for me to solidly announce a team over the other for having a great year, but I think those two definitely were head and shoulders above the rest of the teams in terms of breaching expectations.
Yeah, that's definitely the top 4 though, in my opinion. Racing Point, McLaren, Mercedes, AlphaTauri. Like I'd actually probably struggle to name the 5th best team of the year, but yeah, those 4 great years, and yeah, definitely Racing Point, McLaren definitely broke out as F1 teams this year. Driver of the year, top 3 best drivers, 3 drivers who impressed you the most. You can do it versus expectation or just in general. Who are you looking at here?
I mean, I'm taking Lewis out. Like I did with Mercedes, I'm taking Lewis out because I think just shows how good he is. He really is. Contention for the GOAT talk. I mean, it's him versus Schumacher. And I mean, I'm sure the old school F1 drivers had arguments for some others, but I wasn't involved in that, so I can't say my part of the older folks. But Perez, top 3 for sure. Carlos. I think Charles Leclerc is definitely top 3. I think in that lemon that he was driving, 98 points for the year was pretty impressive. So I'm saying Perez, Leclerc. Jeez, and then I think there's a battle for between like 3rd and 6th, like best drivers of the year. You can say Danny Rick was flying. Max is always fast. Pierre Gasly, a name that probably I should have mentioned. He's probably 3rd or 4th in terms of breakout years. But even your George Russell, who was driving fast in that lemon, but just the car was holding him back. Yeah. I think Perez, Leclerc, Gasly probably had my eyes the most this year in terms of shit. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
For what I was expecting.
Yeah, I did my top 5 votes for every race, and so I'll just base my decision off that. So yeah, Gasly number 1. Hamilton came in 2nd, but yeah, as you mentioned, not really worth including him. Lando actually got in 3rd spot, and yeah, Verstappen came 4th. Once again, though, not really worth mentioning him. And then Leclerc came 5th. So yeah, I'd say Gasly, Norris, Leclerc, but yeah, Perez and Ricciardo's consistency didn't really get rewarded in like a week-to-week analysis sort of situation. Yeah. But if you take a step back from the whole year, they obviously killed it because they were just consistently in that top 10, top 6 sort of spot. But yeah, for me, Gasly is driver of the year. Frothed his season. So single-handedly put AlphaTauri on the back and made them one of the best teams of the year as well. Yeah.
I think his second half of the season wasn't
that's true.
As classy, but maybe because we were just expecting him then to be, top 7, probably dampen his the highlights of his. But yeah, incredible season in that car. Obviously outshone Kvyat by a long way. But yeah, it was exciting. As much as it was boring to see Mercedes kind of walk in every week, the rest of the battles were so super exciting.
Yeah,
almost every week.
Yeah, it was a great season. And don't want to dwell on the negatives too much, but if you had to give a worst team of the year or most disappointing versus the expectation, who are you going with?
It depends when I'm looking at it. It's going to be Ferrari.
Yeah.
If you look at the start of the year, but knowing, say, from halfway through the year, even still, I can't. It's got to be Ferrari or Haas, I think.
Yeah.
Ferrari, and then the bottom three teams are all probably below what they were expecting.
Yeah.
And the Williams you didn't expect them to have a points finish, so you could say that it was kind of around their mark. But Haas 3 points are probably a lot less than what they were hoping for. Alfa Romeo really didn't have any expectations of them, and then obviously Ferrari 6th is unheard of. So they were probably a bit cut with how that went this year. But yeah, for sure, probably Ferrari's got to be the one, doesn't it?
Yeah, Ferrari's got to be the one. Also, I think Red Bull's worth mentioning, just probably not versus my expectations, but versus their expectations. I'm sure they would have liked to have challenged Mercedes a bit more this year. But Ferrari, and then I know we crap on them a lot, but second place probably Haas, just because I was expecting them to kind of bounce back from a few down years and outperform the Alfa Romeo and stuff, but they didn't. So, and then most disappointing driver / worst driver. This is tough.
You could say Seb.
I think Seb's got to be.
Albon probably needs it. He's in the mentions. He had a few good races, Albon, so maybe touch stiff.
Bottas is actually getting a mention from me. He's pretty low in my drivers' votes. He's he's 12th, and he's driving one of the best cars. So,
comparing Lance Stroll to Perez, probably stiff.
There's a few guys that have been dogged by their teammate, like even Kvyat versus Gasly. Yeah, they all look pretty bad just because their teammate killed it. But I think Seb, if I had to pick one, I know we're shitting on Ferrari here, but I'd probably have to say Seb.
Used to not like the man. He's growing on me. I know. I'm glad he's still in F1.
Yeah.
But yeah, he probably, comparing to Charles, how Charles was driving the red car was, Seb was always, just a few pegs below him.
Yeah, it was pretty weird to see Seb in a Ferrari just coming 13th, 14th every week. But kind of got used to it by the end, which was a bit worrying for them. But yeah, sadly, Seb, probably the most disappointing driver of the year. But there's definitely a few worth mentioning. But yeah, that's really... Do you want to quickly say who you think will fill those last two seats on the grid? So the Mercedes and the Red Bull seats are left. Do you have any theories or any wishes?
I think Lewis is he's pretty much in, I think. I think a miracle would have to happen for him not to end up in that seat. And if he wasn't in that seat, he would be at Red Bull, I think. I don't think a team's not going to sign him. I think Red Bull, as much as Perez deserves it, I think something's telling me that Albon's he's hanging around to have another crack to prove his point.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's pretty crazy for Perez.
But it'd be sad to see Perez not pick up a seat for sure, especially after what he's just proven to the game of F1. And he's fast. So it'd be sad to see him not in the seat, especially in a car like Red Bull.
Yeah, my dream situation would probably be the Hulk in the Mercedes and Perez in the Red Bull, but obviously Hamilton's going to re-sign, and then I do think Albon will probably get given the nod over Perez, which is very stiff on Perez, given that he's just had the best year of his career. But it's a pretty tough industry when there's only 20 jobs available.
Yeah, talking about the best of the best.
Yeah, but yeah, that's all we've got for you today. Peanut's got to go play some golf, and he's going to go crunch some 250-yard bombs down the middle of the fairway. But
maybe next to me, not my fairway.
But yeah, been a pleasure to actually chat about a different sport for a change. Obviously loved the NFL episodes, but good to be back talking about all sports and F1 in particular. It's been a good year. We've definitely gotten around it. I need to looking forward to getting back into it kind of lost my fanship a little bit towards the end of the season, but keen to get back into it for the start of next year in Australia. And yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. As always, really appreciate it.
Appreciate being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Cheers. Looking forward to some F1 next year. Enjoy your Christmas, mate.
You too, mate. Merry Christmas.